This video is about an important misunderstanding around emotions, and almost everyone is living in accordance with this misunderstanding, and it's driving a lot of our suffering. And when we can get the right view of emotions and understand them more accurately, see them more clearly, that means we can sort of process them way more effectively and therefore suffer less. So if you're interested in being more emotionally attuned and suffering less, resisting your emotions less, check this one out. So the misunderstanding is that your emotions are being caused by the thing. When I say the thing, I mean the thing that's in front of you. It's the person, place, or event that feels like is causing or driving that emotion. Maybe it's your boss at work is putting a lot of pressure on you and you feel like that's making you anxious or making you feel ashamed. Or it's your partner's having a go at you, and again it feels like that it's your partner who's causing that emotion to arise within you. Or you're at a nightclub or a party and it feels like that environment is causing you to feel socially anxious, for example. It's like, and it's very understandable, someone does something or we go into a particular environment and then suddenly whoosh, emotions come up. We start feeling anxious or afraid. And it's very understandable. It's like, well, X happened and then I felt like Y, so, X must be the cause. But this isn't actually what's going on. There's a deeper layer. And the problem is that when we think this way, when we think, oh, that person, place, or thing is causing my emotion, we try to solve it at that level. With that understanding, it makes sense to try to make the person behave differently. We might argue with our boss or our partner. Maybe we try and take ourselves out of certain environments. We might quit our job, or we might not go to the nightclub or to the party because we're afraid of how we're going to feel when we go there. Even though a part of us might want to connect to people there. We kind of withdraw and disengage from something so we don't have to experience that because we think it's the party or the nightclub, so I just can't go. That's just all there is to it. Or if it's our own behavior that's causing problems, we might, berate ourselves, the inner critic might come online. But this never really works because the emotion is coming from somewhere deeper, right? The important thing to understand about this is that by a certain age, by the time you're certainly an adult, almost all of your core emotional wounds have already been established. They're already within you, invisibly deep down. And you're just accumulating more and more emotional pain, essentially, as you're going through life. So there's this, you might have a core wound of helplessness or vulnerability, say, that was created when you were very young, when your caregivers weren't quite attuned to you. They weren't quite paying attention to you. And as a baby, in order to deal with that, a sense of helplessness arose. Maybe a sense of rage on top of that helplessness to try to help you to survive, to get what you needed. You're angry and helpless, so you try and get attention from the world. That created this template, this original wound. And then as you go through life, every single time there was some situation that echoed that, where someone wasn't quite paying attention to you or listening to you, you didn't quite feel held. That helplessness, that rage grows. Assuming that you're not feeling it, which almost no one is ever given the skills or support to do that, at school or wherever else. So these emotions, they accumulate over time. It's like if you're afraid of a situation, every time that situation comes up, that fear rises and you push it back down again, and it just gets bigger and bigger each time. And so we go through life with these core emotional wounds that just accumulate. And then what's happening is that a certain trigger comes along and all of that pain from the past rises to the surface. It wasn't created in that moment. Furthest thing from it. It's an accumulation of a whole lifetime of different situations originating in moments of childhood where you weren't giving the holding and support you needed. That's the origin. And then the events in life cause those to grow and sort of accumulate. And then it's certain triggers and events and places in our life that then trigger those wounds and make them conscious. They're unconscious and invisible. They're, being held at bay by our various psychological defense mechanisms as you go about your day as a relatively happy, normal human being. But suddenly someone says something happens, whoosh, those wounds rise to the surface. And if you don't investigate it further, it feels so much like it's that person or that place that caused that emotion. But it's not. You were carrying it with you already. And if you think it's that person or that place, you're going to go the wrong way about, what to do about it. And really, how do you actually want to go about it? You need to take a step back. Say your boss, criticizes you and a feeling of shame and anxiety arises. I've got a lot of videos about how to feel those feelings, and go check those out. Essentially, the core step is always to take a step back. Don't believe what your mind is telling you at face value. Your mind is giving you really important information, but only if you learn to read between the lines. So your mind goes, oh, my boss is getting really stressed about this work. I need to do better. Or it might be irritation of, I can't believe he's doing this. There's all a sense of irritation. There's all these stories that are essentially about your boss and the work. It's all this superficial stuff. You got to take a step back and go, well, why is my mind creating these stories? Why have I got an image of my boss in my head? Why are there these words coming up, worrying about the work and the boss? What is this? What is the function of this? And you'll see that it's actually trying to protect you from something. There's anxiety about what your boss wants. There's anger at, maybe what they're doing, because it's trying to push you to behave in a certain way. It's either trying to push you to, quit your job, yell at your boss, or do the work. Whatever it is that you hope will change the situation such that this painful feeling deep down goes away. Your mind is trying to change a situation, manipulate reality such that the trigger disappears. This is key. What we're always trying to do is manipulate reality so that the trigger disappears. And instead, what we've got to learn to do is read between the lines and goes, well, hey, actually, what's the wound that is here that I'm trying to avoid? Right? What's the wound that I don't want to be triggered? And then you can go, I feel ashamed of myself. I feel it when my boss criticizes me, it brings up this feeling of not being good enough. And you could ask yourself, well, is this feeling familiar? Like, when was the first time I felt this way? And very often you'll get a sense, oh, no, I recognize this shame before. I felt this before. And there's a memory of, maybe a time one of your parents was disappointed at you, or a time you were in primary school or kindergarten and, you got in trouble for doing something, right? You can trace it back to some particular memory, or you can just ask yourself, that you can feel this shame in your body, get in touch with it. Maybe it's a heaviness in the chest, and ask it, what do you mean about me? What are you saying about who I am? This heavy shame feeling. And there'll be an identity connected, like, I'm not good enough. I'm worthless. I'm stupid. I'm bad. I'm wrong. And it will have a very primal, ancient sense to it very often, because it belongs to, our really earliest years, when that shame wound was established, that template was put in place. And it's just been slowly growing and festering over time, and is being triggered by the various situations. So rather than, what we can help to understand about emotions is they come from the past. They originate in our childhood, and they are accumulating over time. Each time we experience a similar situation, that wound grows, and the trigger is then what's bringing that to the surface each time. And how we deal with it normally is we try and make the trigger disappear by manipulating reality, changing the people around us, changing ourselves, taking ourselves into a different environment, running away from certain environments. And there's nothing wrong with that per se. It's just not going to help us. What you'll find is that you manipulate reality, but the wound is still there. So the next day, you have to keep manipulating reality. You have to keep pressuring yourself to do better. You have to keep trying to manipulate your boss. You have to keep never going to nightclubs in your life because they make you feel uneasy. But instead, if you turn towards the wound and go, well, what am I running away from here? What don't I want to feel? You can feel that. And as you process that through, you'll find that these situations, these people, these places don't trigger you as much. You can even, as you keep going through the layers of that shame in this example, but it could be anger or hurt or layers of all of them, you will actually find that when your boss criticizes you, it feels lighter. It doesn't feel threatening. You take the feedback on board, or you say that's not actually true, and you just let it go. Or you can go to a nightclub and you feel more relaxed. Or your partner is getting agitated about something, but you don't take it as personally. That's because you've worked through the wound, and so there's not as much stuff within you to get triggered. Makes perfect sense. And you can test this for yourself. As you work through these layers of emotion, you'll just simply find that you don't get triggered by the same thing, because it was never about the thing. So going back to the title of this video, the core idea, your emotions are not about the thing. It's not about your partner. It's not about your boss. It's not about you. It's about that original emotional wound in childhood that was laid down, that just needs tending to, that needs love, that needs to be held. Just like that little baby version of you needed to be held at a certain point in your life, but wasn't. At least not in quite the right way. I work with people one-on-one, helping them to feel their feelings, offering somatic therapy sessions. So if you do want some support, uncovering, working through your own wounding, feeling your feelings, processing this stuff, helping understand how these patterns work in you so you can feel better, then reach out via the links below.